Washington's criminal justice system is fucked.
Thanks for tuning in to leftcoastnews.net. News and information from the wacky, sometimes communist, liberal west coast of the United States. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net.
So we've all seen these stories repeatedly in Washington state of criminals being arrested for crimes, serious crimes, multiple felonies. I've seen people with upwards of 72 felonies arrested and arrested and arrested and released and released and released, and they continue to come out and cause chaos and hurt people and commit crimes. But Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, he actually had the balls to say what all these Democrats won't say, and that's that he has no desire to lock up repeat offenders.
So when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry. So my remedy is to find their life story to see how we could help first. I have no desire to put them in jail. But I need to protect you, and that's the calibration that we have. I put police officers on the stand. I've cross-examined them. So whether they commit 7 or 8 crimes, to me, is not the issue. The issue is, why are they committing these crimes?
Seattle Democratic Mayor Bruce Harrell said during a mayoral debate Thursday night he has no desire to put repeat criminal defenders in jail, and he doesn't know how to answer the question on whether the city is too lax on repeat offenders. Well, that's not a hard question to answer when you see the same people out committing all these terrible crimes all the time, and they're just back on the streets. People are tired of it. So let me make something very clear. I was the one that sponsored the ban the box legislation when everyone opposed it, because the criminal justice system had a disparate impact on black and brown communities, because it's always about race with these people. Let me lead with that. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell said in a mayoral debate Thursday night when asked a follow-up question about repeat offenders in the city. Harrell's ban the box proposal in 2013 prevented employers from asking about an applicant's criminal history on applications up front, because you don't have a right to know if you're going to hire a felon to come work at your business or a sex offender to come work at your business. What a stupid idea. Harrell then said, when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Who cares? Who cares what their story is? Do you care about the victims in these crimes? Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry. But my remedy is to find their life story to see how we can help. First, I have no desire to put them in jail, but I need to protect you, and that's the calibration that we have. I put police officers on the stand. I've cross-examined them. So whether they commit 7 or 8 crimes to me is not the issue. The issue is, why are they committing these crimes? And so we have a health-based strategy. This is the new buzz phrase for Democrats in Washington, the health-based strategy. That doesn't solve crime. Obviously, we're seeing that here in this state. All the repeat offenders, crime is up. No matter what they want to tell you, crime is up. And yet, we just keep letting them out because Democrats don't want to Democrats care more about criminals than they do you. They care more about criminals than the taxpayers who pay their salaries. People are tired of this garbage, man. Repeat offenders have been part of the national conversation with respect to crimes in recent weeks after several high-profile murders carried out by suspects with lengthy criminal records, including North Carolina, where Ukrainian Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death on a train by a suspect with a long history of arrests going back more than a decade, including charges on felony larceny, robbery, and a dangerous weapon and communicating threats. So all these states where these Democrat politicians, activist Democrat judges get in their positions of power and they can't be held liable for anything. They're untouchable when it comes to this stuff. And it's funny because in Washington, you know, they passed a law where gun manufacturers can be held liable for mass shootings. You can sue a gun manufacturer if somebody goes out and commits gun-related violence with one of their weapons. We don't do that with DUIs. We don't sue Ford or Chevy or Toyota if somebody goes out and kills somebody with a vehicle. But if we're going to go down that road, I mean, you see, these laws only ever apply to the little things they want them to apply to, the little pet projects they want it to matter for, like guns, because they want to take guns. But if we're going to go down that road, then I think that these judges who make stupid decisions on the bench, or politicians who pass stupid laws that allow these people to continually get out and hurt people, then maybe they need to be held liable. Maybe they should be sued, because after a few lawsuits, I guarantee all this will stop. Guaranteed. Well, let's just talk about some more Washington State criminals. A Spokane County judge grants the South Hill rapist Kevin Coe release after 40 years in custody. I'm sure you've seen this on the news. Maybe you haven't, but this is sick and disgusting. The South Hill rapist was granted his release by a Spokane County judge on Thursday last week. The state of Washington, this wasn't the judge, this was the state, said it doesn't have proof that Kevin Coe is a sexual predator any longer, because somehow that just goes away with age, right? And is not fighting his request to be released during a hearing set for Thursday morning. Spokane County Judge Julie McKay noted on Thursday that the county does not have jurisdiction over Coe's case, and the decision to release Coe had already been made before the hearing. Prior to Thursday's release, Kevin Coe served 4 decades in prison and civil commitment, though it's not the first time he was set to walk free. Coe was believed responsible for upwards of 40 sexual assaults between the late 70s and his arrest in 1981, but ultimately he only served time for 1 rape. During his trial, Coe was convicted on 4 counts of rape. Just 3 years later, the state Supreme Court overturned those convictions because some victims were hypnotized during the police investigation. Yeah, sometimes, at least back then, not so much now, I suppose, but back then, this was an acceptable way to help people remember what happened, to get details about crimes. This was accepted practice. It wasn't some fringe thing. We can't go back now with weird things we've changed in the laws and retry all these cases, or just release people or whatever. Anyway, in the second trial in 1985, Coe was found guilty on 3 rape charges again. Many of those were overturned on the hypnosis issue. Coe's single rape conviction, one, led to a 25-year prison sentence, and in 2006 he was set to be released. Instead, the state argued he was still a sexually violent predator. So sometime between 2006 and now, he magically was rehabilitated, right? He was involuntarily committed to McNeil Island in 2008 after a jury agreed he was still a danger to the public. But now, 2 separate psychology experts concluded that Coe, now 78 years old, is in failing health. Who cares? Good. Hope he dies. He should die in jail. Who cares if he's sick? That doesn't mean that, oh, okay, well, since you're dying now, we'll let you out because we feel sorry for you. A Washington State Department of Social and Health Services psychologist and another hired by the Attorney General's office say that due to Coe's heart disease, limited mobility, and ongoing mental health issues, he's unlikely to reoffend. Would those ailments stop him from offending against a child? I don't think so. While the Attorney General's office is not fighting his release, a spokesperson says Coe will be a registered sex offender for life and will likely go to an adult group home. Oh, thank the Lord. He'll be a registered sex offender, because somehow that stops people from doing things. This state allows people to register as a transient as a sexual offender. So you can be homeless, no address. What good does that do? They don't know where you're at. They have no way to find you. They're not tracking these people. Do you know how many sex offenders there are? They're everywhere. It's just nothing. It doesn't even matter. They barely even notify people that these turds move into their communities. DSHS confirmed with Creme 2 on Thursday that Coe will be sent to live at the Win-Win adult home in Federal Way. Well, not a win-win for Federal Way, I would say. If you live in the area of that thing, I'd be awfully careful with where your children are at. Eastern Washington's Congressman Michael Baumgartner also released the following statement in reaction to Coe's release. Kevin Coe should have been given a life in prison or the death penalty for his heinous crimes on Spokane's South Hill. It's deeply disturbing for everyone in Spokane that he will be out on the street. Again, Democrat policies. Democrats just want to coddle these criminals. They don't care about you. They don't care about the victims. How about all the women that were raped? How do you think this makes them feel? They don't matter. State doesn't care. State couldn't give a shit about what happened to them. These psychologists couldn't give a shit about it. No, because he's sick, and they feel sorry for him. And he probably won't do anything because he's ill. I'll tell you something else about this guy. He never once in the entire time he was in prison went to any kind of therapy or signed up for any kind of therapy, was forced to give any kind of therapy. None. So absolutely nothing was done. Why the news article fails to mention that, I don't know. Absolutely nothing was done to try to rehabilitate this person, although I don't believe for 1 second that sex offenders can be rehabilitated. That is, you got something wired wrong in your head if you're that way, and it can't be fixed. You're always going to be that way. You're always going to be a threat. You're always going to be a danger to people. And this guy is too, whether he's 78 or 23 or whatever, doesn't matter. That guy is a threat until he is dead. All right. Well, in the more recent last few days here, I don't know if you've heard about this, but a hammer-wielding vandal broke into the Capitol a couple nights ago and did a bunch of damage, set fires. A hammer-wielding 29-year-old Washington resident is facing multiple felony charges after allegedly breaking into the state Capitol building in Olympia Sunday night, the legislative building no less. Setting fires, toppling 2 iconic busts outside the historic state reception room, Gunnar McLean Schubert wreaked havoc for about 10 minutes before the Washington State Patrol arrested him without incident as he left the building. Authorities said he was booked into Thurston County Jail and is facing charges of first-degree burglary, first-degree arson, and first-degree malicious mischief. He's released within hours with no bail on a signature by the judge. It's such a joke. This guy broke into the legislative building, burned flags, broke historical items that can't be replaced, and did damage to them. I mean, in the Democrats' mind, is that not insurrection? It's not, I guess, when a Democrat does it. Yeah, this guy was a Democrat. In fact, he volunteered to be the sergeant at arms recently for the Democrats. The guy is a lunatic. Here's just a little clip from his Facebook page that I would like you to watch, and you tell me what you think.
Still a little boo-booed up, but I got, stuff. I really want to speak on geometrical philosophy based off incremental orders and division properties. Algorithm and calculus is very interesting. I love math. I love, education. I think it's really cool. Extremely important. Yeah, man, I would love to, get out in the world and be nature, but I don't got any money. That just sucks to suck, especially when the state government doesn't want to, use cash or liquidated assets. They want to use digital currencies, which doesn't work because the linguistic symbols aren't congruent to electromagnetic pulse radiations coming from power lines, because it's not connected to the base of the conductors of the rubber that insulates the copper that connects electricity. So they can't figure it out, and they can't remove it all because that would be fucking obvious, right? So food for thought. We need more oil. You know what I mean? We need more oil. I know it's a hard thought for a lot of you, but, oil's in everything. There's nothing wrong with it. Oil is a good thing. It's ultimately how you bathe, and that's ultimately how you can smell nicer. So you can, cure diseases because it has salt and whatever. So hopefully, you guys enjoy your holiday season. Government shutdown coming on. That's great. But, hey, go Mariners.
Well, I don't really need to say much of anything about that, do I? It's pretty obvious this guy is mentally ill. But that doesn't change the fact that he did this. And anyway, I'll continue with this article. It did not seem, this is the best part of the article too, it did not seem to be at all politically motivated. It appears to have been a person experiencing a mental health challenge, said Chris Loftus, a spokesman for the Washington State Patrol. No shit, it's mental health. That doesn't excuse or mean that it wasn't politically motivated, because it definitely was. You don't burn flags unless you are politically motivated, right? You don't break certain things or do damage to certain things unless it's politically motivated. And he's a socialist and all this, so definitely politically motivated. What a joke. Domestic terrorist, right? He broke into the state capitol. If a conservative had done that, what do you think would be all over the news right now? They'd be looking for every connection the guy had, every group he belonged to, any club, anything, family, all of it. Domestic terrorist, insurrection, trying to start this, trying to start that. But because it's a Democrat, very little is being said about this. It's not being talked about. He's not being held accountable, obviously, released on no bail, signature. If that was a conservative, my God. Shortly after 10 p.m., Schubert, a native of Auburn and a former minor league baseball player, wow, used a hammer to smash a first-floor window on the suite of offices shared by several House Democrats, authorities said. He proceeded to knock over county flags positioned in one corner of the rotunda, and using lighter fluid set the Columbia County flag on fire, Washington Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck said in an interview. On the third floor, officers said he broke a glass door to get into the reception room, where he burned a piano bench and attempted to set the carpet on fire. He also tripped over state and national flags and burned them. Pretty sure that's a federal crime now. Federal flag. American flag. Outside, he knocked over a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. and a much larger one of George Washington. Both had been put back in place by midday Monday. Do you honestly believe he did all this in 10 minutes? I can tell you without a doubt, for a fact, he was in that building longer than 10 minutes. They're trying to downplay this situation, of course. He also threw some stanchions down the rotunda stairs, causing a few chips on the marble stairs, according to the Department of Enterprise Services, whose staff first notified law enforcement Sunday night. It's nice that the janitors have to notify the cops of the Capitol campus, the legislative building being broken into, the one the State Patrol is charged with protecting, the one that the State Patrol has officers on site 24/7 to protect. Can't even do it. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking news, Heck said of the damage in the state reception room. The room is used for public tours, class visits, press conferences, and bill signings by governors. Yeah, I've been in that room. There is a lot of antiques in that room. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, this should piss you off. Like, it should matter. This stuff matters. These historical items matter. That is our legislative building, and it should be protected. And if you do something like this, you should be in some kind of trouble. You shouldn't just get to go home the next day and post some videos on Facebook, some really idiotic, spaced out videos. And it doesn't matter if you're mentally ill. That's not an excuse. You still know right and wrong. Sorry. It contains priceless, irreplaceable items. The carpet, for example, is the original flooring from 1928 and described by the state as the world's largest single loom carpet. Schubert played baseball at Gonzaga University in Spokane and was drafted by the Florida Marlins in 2018. His professional career lasted 2 seasons. In recent days, Schubert appeared to post repeatedly to Instagram, voicing rambling frustrations with the government. Through his political ideology is unclear from the posts. That's BS. I looked at those posts. He's a socialist. He wants the government to pay for everything. In separate posts, he posed with a gun, invoked a Democratic state lawmaker, and wrote current events-themed poems as captions. Also, he was the volunteer Democrat sergeant-at-arms for the Democrat Party. Well, that pretty much would let you assume what his party affiliation is, wouldn't it? What his political affiliation is? X said Schubert had dropped by his office 3 times in the last few months. In those visits, the suspect left notes and small gifts for Heck, although the veteran political leader said he didn't know the man. I take his family at their word that there are mental health considerations, obviously. Doesn't matter. Heck said in an interview how it is not a political how is it not a political statement to enter the state capitol building and do damage? He could have entered any 1,000 buildings in Thurston County. Secondly, we do know that he has had an Instagram trail of having made strong statements. The truth of the matter is, anytime this happens, whether it's Paul Pelosi getting his head beat in or Steve Scalise being shot, they are all, in all likelihood, both political statements and issues of mental health. Yes, you can have both simultaneously, Democrats. Did you know that? It's not one or the other, and one doesn't trump the other. And there still needs to be consequences for your actions. Heck added, referring to separate attacks over the past decade on U.S. Representative Nancy Pelosi's husband and Scalise, a congressman from Louisiana. It's not cleanly one or the other, I don't think, Heck said. Hardly ever. It's some combination often. In a statement, House Speaker Lori Jenkins, Democrat Tacoma, called the Capitol more than just a building. It's the people's house, and it must always be a place where legislators, staff, and the public feel safe carrying out the important work of democracy, she said. While this act of destruction is disturbing, we will not be deterred. The people's work will continue, and our commitment to transparency, safety, and service remains unwavering. Political violence is increasing, and it's almost all Democrats, even though they love to say that it's mostly all Republicans. That's just not the case. The Democrats, especially the socialists and Antifa types, they don't care about either party, and they will attack either party, and they're not happy with the government, the Washington state government, the Oregon government, the California government, which is all Democrat. It's all liberal, not liberal enough for these people. And they will attack them just the same, and then the media will want to turn around and say, oh, they must have been conservatives, they must have been Republicans, since they're attacking Democrats. No. Earlier today, I think in South Carolina, a Ninth Circuit Court judge's house was burned to the ground, and they believe it was politically motivated. So it'll be interesting to see who did that. But you have these increase in political violence. People are getting upset because things just aren't changing the way they want them to. Things are getting worse for people. This violence continues. I hope you're prepared for it. I hope you're ready. People may think that when a civil war starts, it's just going to be one day you wake up and we're at war, but that's not the way that works. Look at big wars throughout history. It's a slow roll into it, and we're slow rolling right now. We're in it. It started. You've got these little acts of insurrection, attacks on government buildings in Portland and Seattle and California and all over the country, in Chicago, attacks on federal officers, other law enforcement not backing them up, specifically Portland and Chicago, although Chicago kind of changed their tune today, but Portland's not. So you have law enforcement against law enforcement, maybe the National Guard against law enforcement or citizens, depending on where they're at. I'm telling you, we're slow rolling into this thing, and whether or not it can be averted or not, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it right now. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're prepared. I hope you're prepared to be on your own, to protect yourself. And if you're not, now is the time to get ready while you still can, to get prepared. I mean, look around. This isn't like crazy talk. This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. It's happening in front of your face. It's on the news every day. It's only a matter of time. Unless the aliens come and save us, right? Just get ready, people. Prepare. Okay, so here's another great example of releasing some idiot back into the community that shouldn't be. A 13-year-old Pierce County boy accused of plotting a mass attack is back home under electronic monitoring after a judge approved his release from juvenile detention early last week. Because electronic home monitoring works so well, there's nothing they can do then, right? They can't just cut the freaking bracelet off and go do what they want to do, and by the time somebody gets there, they have no friggin' clue. It's not like somebody's sitting outside their house waiting, right? They cut it off. It sends a signal. Somebody may or may not see it. Then that company that's doing the monitoring, because they're private companies, they're not through the county. Private company has to notify law enforcement. They create a call. They go out. It won't be a priority call, I can tell you that. they'll get to it when they get to it. And by then, who knows what this kid does or where he goes or what happens, right? So ridiculous. The only people that should be on electronic home monitoring are low-risk offenders, not people planning mass attacks. The teen had been scheduled for a hearing on October 6th to determine whether he would remain in custody, but his defense team requested that the review be moved to September 29th. According to the defense, the early detention review was requested so the boy could attend a mental health intake appointment scheduled by his mother September 30th. Well, they can take him from juvenile to the appointment because they do that all the freaking time, all day long, all over the state. Inmates, murderers are being transported from prisons and jails to physical therapy and massage appointments and dental appointments and every kind of medical thing you can think of because the state gives them full medical care, full medical benefits at no cost to them while they're in jail or prison. And we pay for that. What a waste of money. They shouldn't get any of that while they're in jail or prison. None of it. None of it. I don't care what their medical condition is. Whatever it is, it should be bare bones, and it should be done at the jail. They should not be leaving the facility to go to these appointments. You could be at a doctor's office, and there could be a murderer in the room next to you with maybe one or two guys from the prison somewhere around there trying to keep an eye on him. This happens every single day in this state, every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. Were you aware of that? What do you think about that? Should our tax dollars be paying for them? Do you have full medical care that you don't have to pay for? Again, the state coddles these criminals. The court agreed, and the teen was released, allowed to leave home only for medical and counseling appointments. Documents show he's seeing a licensed mental health specialist with a local Christian counseling service. Who cares? Authorities began investigating after receiving multiple tips and threatening social media posts he made. Deputies executed a search warrant at his family's home in early September, about 20 minutes south of Tacoma. Inside, they reported finding dozens of guns, many without serial numbers, along with writings and drawings referencing school shootings. Deputies said it appeared he had an obsession with school shootings. How does a 13-year-old get dozens of guns? A backpack filled with ammunition and AR-style magazines was also recovered, according to court documents. Some of the magazines reportedly had written references to mass shootings, such as Columbine. Investigators believed the backpack was a go bag, indicating he was prepared for an attack. The boy was arrested and charged with multiple counts. He has pleaded not guilty. During a hearing last month, the judge said any consideration of release would depend on mental health intervention and confirmed that no firearms remain in the home. Prosecutors opposed the release, asking the judge to keep the teen in secure detention, citing community safety concerns after the September 22nd hearing. Pierce County Sheriff's Office confirmed it referred charges against the teen's parents in connection with the case, but the prosecutor's office has not filed charges at this time. The boy has been homeschooled for at least the past 4 years. Under the terms of his release, he is restricted to online education only. His next hearing is scheduled for October 29th. Why weren't his parents charged? As a parent, if your 13-year-old has dozens of guns in his room and you don't know that, you're liable. You're in just as much trouble as he is. But haven't filed charges because, this kid probably won't get anything, get a slap on the wrist, if he doesn't go commit some sort of mass attack between now and whenever that happens, right? These people are all around you, everywhere you go in this state. All these criminals. I hope that you protect yourself. I hope you have a concealed weapons permit. Because the only person that's going to protect you is you. The cops will show up maybe after whatever happens. They won't be there to stop it. You have to save yourself. You have to be responsible for you and your family. Don't be naive. Don't walk around with your head in the sand and think that everything's just hunky-dory, because it isn't. Seattle Public Schools. We talked about this kid planning a mass shooting down in Tacoma, but Seattle Public Schools doesn't want any law enforcement in their schools. The easiest way to stop these mass shootings would be to have a cop in every school or armed security. Veterans, military, National Guard, police, I don't care. But you put an armed guard in a school, and that's the end of these cowards going to these soft targets to commit these shootings. The end of it. So why are Democrats so opposed to that? Why does Seattle Public Schools not want to protect your children? Why do they not want law enforcement in the school? Seattle Public Schools also, and this is probably why they don't want law enforcement in the school, they're more concerned about transgenderism and all this other garbage that's going on in Washington right now. Seattle Public Schools doesn't care or isn't sticking to reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is from Seattle Red, by the way. It's now reportedly handing out gender-affirming supplies like chest binders, nipple guards, trans tape, and tucking underwear from Seattle Children's Hospital to students at Garfield High School. The education system is a whole nother nuclear bomb here in Washington. Right there with the criminal justice system. They've completely lost sight with the basics of what is important and focus on all this other brainwashing garbage with your kids. And you wonder why these kids come out and commit crimes. You're not giving them any tools to deal with life in the adult world when they get out of school. None. You wonder why there's all this mental illness. Well, you can at least partially thank the school system for that. This isn't how the real world operates. This isn't how business operates. Working at an employer operates. We are doing such a disservice to the kids in this state. And yet people continue to allow this trash, to vote for these people that pass these policies. It's crazy. It's crazy. Life on the West Coast.